Greetings and welcome back, monster lovers. Today we'll be painting Vyraxen of Primal the Awakening. Vyraxen is a dragonoid type of fire-breathing monster in this boss battling game. You may have seen my other painting of Zatheros, a T-Rex-ish, dinosaurish looking monster, which was also from this game. As with that one, I want to give him a secondary sort of lighting from behind him, although here I want to go with a blue, whereas with Zatheros I kind of went with more of a turquoise color representing a jungle behind him. But because of how Vyraxen is first presented in the lore in this board game, I do want him to appear during the day and upon, say, a more rocky surface. So my plan for the backlighting is to be a bit more bluish, but certainly not too overpowering of a color. So I started by airbrushing sort of the main coverage colors, which is the red and the tannish color that falls upon his wings. After that, I started working out and blocking out his horns and the shapes there, after which I proceeded to do some more edge highlighting on those horns as well as the forefront of his fleshy areas. At this point, while away from the miniature, I wanted to organize my thoughts and how I'm going to approach this monster with colors, so next time, with my limited painting time, I can more purposely approach the paint job, without having my mind bothered with what to do next and contemplating which areas I've finished and which areas I have to go back to and back and forth on and stuff like that. So I decided to plan it all out, and basically here's how it proceeds. The next move was to take advantage of the airbrush and run some burgundy on the ground, then cover that with brown and the gray for the stone main area that he's posturing off of. Upon this, also add a small yellow warm area, which will be from the glow of his neck, and then proceed to cover the wings with the light tan, which will follow up on his belly front as well. I also followed up the wings with a little bit of wash to darken the folds a little bit more. Then I went back and sprayed more brighter red on only certain of the forefront body parts, mainly the face and the neck and the shoulders, and then finished off the airbrush usage with the cool blue backlighting. At this point, it returned all back to brushwork for me, starting back on the wings and adding those patterns, placing down a darker red first and then the lighter within, leaving for darker outline edges. After that, I filled in the deep crevices on his neck with a strong white, as well as within its mouth. Then I followed that with a yellow for the hot fire and its glow. Then I continued on all the red areas, the flesh areas, the scale areas, with edge highlighting with brighter reds. Then I continued the same, doing edge highlighting on the tan areas, on the wings and lower body front. and continued the edge highlighting onto the horns and bringing some of those forms back out. And as an ending point, I dropped down to the ground and pulled out those grays, browns, and some warm yellowish tones from that slight glow that he'd have from his mouth and neck, and possibly the fires that he has blown ahead of him. Although these yellowish fire highlights were not my goal here, not to overcome the visual of the creature, as I wanted the contrast to shine there from the brightness of those crevices and from the inside of his mouth to the shadows that it creates upon his neck to give those reds that deep, velvety, wonderful red. And then last but not least, I finished off with the basing around with a black covered with a gloss varnish, as this will be a nice area of handling of this creature, as well as a bit of glossiness to draw attention to the aspects of that base. I was also considering, and I might still do it, I'm not sure, but I would recommend it, is if you're not planning on putting on varnish, but you are planning to have this as a playable piece as I am instead of display more, then running some matte or satin varnish on the outside most ridges of the wings, as that's often where you're probably going to be picking up and handling this big miniature from, at least until you get your hand to that bottom of the base where you have the thicker varnish at. My paint quality here was for game readiness, but a little bit above, and I did lose myself there within it a little bit, as these are joint paint, but with some other paint strategies here I also got to save some time, and so it's certainly not as premium as I'd want it to be for the ultimate display, but I certainly feel that it's got more going on that it really has to be a piece on the table. With big minis like this, there's always so much more you can do, and grab the smaller brush out and keep going, but as I'm going to be working on these, I have to remind myself that these are for the tabletop. And well, there's more in that box waiting for me. Let me know your thoughts, and if you're playing a game, let me know which monster you would like me to paint up next, preferably which sort of starting ones. I already have a couple in mind, but maybe you can nudge me a little more toward one of them. If you haven't seen the previous paint job of Zatheros, I'd love it if you'd check it out and let me know which paint approaches and styles or ultimately paint jobs did you prefer, Vyraxen or Zatheros.